All right, we're going to call to order our public hearing. Declaration of a quorum, 7 members present. Item C, receive a presentation related to the CSISD Texas Academic Performance Report for 2020-2021 school year. Mr. Martindale.
Here to provide our TAPR report for the 2021 school year is our Chief Administrative Officer, Ms. Molly Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Martindale. Mr. Horak, members of the board, we are here for the annual public hearing of the Texas Academic Performance Report, lovingly known as TAPR, to us in the educational world. And so we're going to spend some time this evening going through some of the highlights. I will, at the end, remind everyone, but do want to just preface that the entire report is available online, and we are in the process of compiling some additional information, and we'll have the more comprehensive report up within the week. So the annual TAPR report is published by the Texas Education Agency, and it combines a wide range of data for both districts and campuses around both academic performance as well as other components such as financials and demographics of both staff and students. So in that report that is published by the state, about half of the first section of that report is coming from the STAAR assessments, or the State of Texas Assessment of Academic Readiness. Those assessments, as you know, are given each spring as the first administration, and they do comprise the vast majority of this particular report. Other information you'll find in the report include things like attendance, dropout, and graduation information, as well as a number of measures related to college readiness that we'll really focus in on tonight. The second section of the report is really more about the district profile. So just that snapshot, which occurs in our data management system to the Texas Education Agency every October. In fact, it's the last Friday of October. We take a snapshot of what the district looks like on that particular day. And so the information you see related to staff and students will be from that, along with other staff information and program information. So then, as I mentioned, we take all of that and we compile it together with other aspects of data that reflect the district, such as our financial standards. So that would be for this report, the 1920 actuals, then our accreditation status, our campus performance objectives, the determination status of our special education program, along with the report on violent or criminal incidents, and student performance in post-secondary institutions after they leave us and move on. So just very briefly, as a reminder, we did provide a much more comprehensive overview of STAAR results back at the July board workshop. And so I do not intend to rehash those same results this evening. They are, of course, part of the report, though. As a reminder, though, our students met the passing standards at higher rates than the state in every single subject across every grade level, as well as each of the 5 end-of-course exams. Notably, with participation, though, we don't often talk about participation because it's kind of a given. We're generally at about 99%, both in the district and in the state. We saw a decline. So that's not terribly surprising, given that many districts around the state did continue to offer virtual options throughout the previous school year. We did see a little bit of a decline as well there at 95%. So let's shift gears and talk about indicators of post-secondary readiness, specifically looking at the class of 2020. So you may be asking yourself, if this is the 2021 TAPR, why are we talking about the class of 2020? And that's because this information is in arrears. So when we talk about graduates in the TAPR report, it is always the school year or the academic year previous. So we did have 888 graduates in the spring of 2020. And you can see here a little more information about how they performed on several indicators of college readiness. TSI, or the Texas Success Initiative, would encompass student performance on assessments, including the TSI exam, but also the SAT and ACT all combined. And we're looking at what percentage of those graduates met that college readiness standard on the TSI exams. Notably, College Station ISD, along with the state, did see declines that year. And I think that it's not hard to do the backwards math and realize that that was the graduating class that was affected by some of the changes that were happening in that 1920 school year, as well as the closure that we experienced for several months there at the end of the school year. And so many of the exams that students would have taken, as far as licensures and others, were not available to them. So similar trends with college and career and military readiness, or CCMR. We saw a decline along with the state, and the college ready indicator, which is actually a subset of those CCMR indicators. With CCMR, or college career and military readiness, there's about a dozen or so indicators that a student can meet in order to be considered college, career, or military ready. And college ready is really just a subset of those that are really specifically focused on academic achievement and performance on exams like TSI and SAT, ACT, or AP. Interestingly, though, with the four-year graduation rate, we did see an increase here in College Station that particular year. We saw a little bit of an improvement, but across the state, that was very stable. So I want to definitely highlight advanced placement, or AP, both participation on the exams as well as performance. This is an area that we really excel here in College Station, and we have for a long time. In fact, we have been on the AP District Honor Roll, which is a national recognition, for the past 6 years. So looking here at our grade 11-12 performance in 1920, you can see we have more students first participate. So the state would be indicated in the lighter shade, with us being in the darker, kind of looks a little bit green on the screen here. Almost a third of our students participating. What's really stellar, though, is of those students, our students are very much outpacing their peers pretty dramatically at that 82.5% mark to hit that criteria of at least a 3 or above on those exams. Then looking at the final category here where it says grads, that indicates graduates. So what percentage of our graduates are considered to be AP grads, meaning they met that criteria on at least one exam, and a third of them have done that. And so that's pretty incredible as well. Looking at SAT and ACT performance combined here, again, we're back to that class of 2020. You can see that the state actually has a little bit higher participation rate on SAT, ACT, and I suspect the reason for that is that some districts do require that of most students, whereas we provide that option for students. However, even though we have a little bit less of our student population taking the exam, the criteria would be much, much higher in terms of the percentage of students that are meeting that here in College Station. You can see that 65% versus about 35.7% at the state level. So what does that look like in terms of average scores for that same class? The average SAT was 1141 compared to the state of 1019, and then 24 on ACT versus the state average of 20. So let's shift gears and talk about the profile of our students. Again, this was that snapshot in fall of 2020. On that day, we had 13,613 students enrolled. Of course, that fluctuates daily, but that's where we were at that particular time. And of those students, you can see here the demographic makeup of those students, with just slightly over half of our students being white, and then just almost 24% Hispanic, 14% African American, and then a smaller subset that do make up other demographic representations, including Asian, American Indian, and 2 or more races. I will say, looking at the trends over time, we have seen a steady but slow growth in our students who are Hispanic. African American has been pretty stable, and so just with some of those shifts, we have seen a little bit smaller proportion of students who are white. Looking at special populations, you can see here we've highlighted a few of those categories that students might also demonstrate needs in or be eligible for services in. So right away, you can see up at the top, we've got our economically disadvantaged rate of 36. And I will tell you that actually has dipped down on this report just slightly from the year before. We saw a big increase when our pre-K program went from half to full day. I will say, too, though, it's been a little bit more challenging since COVID to get students all appropriately identified in this particular area, because it does require that application for free and reduced lunch. And as you all may remember, we have been able to, through that federal program, offer the free lunches for all of our students the last several years almost now. So then you can see the rate of students who are identified as Section 504, meaning they do have a disability condition that requires either a monitoring plan or accommodation. Dyslexia, 5.6%. Those students might fall under 504 or special education as well. And probably one of the areas we've seen the greatest rate of growth, and as you guys know, is special education. We've grown to 13% on that snapshot and has continued since. Gifted and talented's been relatively stable, but we have seen a bit of an increase with bilingual ESL as well. So then shifting to our staff profile. In 2021, we had 1,947 staff, and you can see the breakdown here with a little over half, or 52% of those being comprised of teachers. The next largest category would be our auxiliary staff, then our instructional aides, professional support, and then finally the smallest percent of our employees being comprised of campus administrators, and then less than 1% are classified as central administration. Then looking specifically at our teachers, of those staff we just saw, 1,014 are teachers. And so you can see the years of experience breakdown here. We do tend to have teachers overall with more experience than what you see across the state. We've seen a slight increase too in the number of beginning or 0-year teachers. I think we had about 9 or 10 more in the 2021 year than we did the year before. And so that's definitely something that I know we keep an eye on, especially as it relates to professional learning and needs. So thinking a little more about our teachers, just under 32% of those do hold an advanced degree, which is higher than the state average of 25%. Our average years of experience is a little higher than the state as well. And we did see that our teacher turnover rate declined. Again, I think the impact of COVID is a probable explanation. We were about 14.5% the year before and dropped down to 11.7%. We've always historically remained under the state rate, and the state also saw a fairly significant decline. I think during that particular year, there was a lot of stay put and see what happens. And so we experienced that here as well. And with that, I would just like to remind everyone that the comprehensive report is available online, and we'll transition to public comment. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Perry.
Thank you.
No public comments? All right. We are adjourned.